Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at TSLA.com. Welcome to today's recap and look ahead. It's been a very interesting day and interesting few days. Friday, the story was the weakness in tech and how it transpired. And again, thank goodness, at least it wasn't a surprise. At least we didn't walk in on Friday because most of us were long 6, 7, 8 positions and bam, down 15 handles in the S&P. No way out of tech. Instead, everything opened up. Tech showed a little weakness, and then throughout the course of the day, things unraveled, and you had many different areas to react to. Okay, this morning we had some downside selling in tech. Some things put a pivot low in the first 30 to 60 minutes to trade against, and you could have made some money that way. Some things didn't act as well as others, and some things, were just to be avoided. And we are in a little bit of no man's land, so it's not the time to sink your teeth into things, but there are definitely trades both ways. You look here at the S&P, and the S&P is still holding up. You had a little bit of a red dog reversal here on Friday. What's a red dog reversal? You know what that is. First of all, after a really big move from this lower red dog reversal to highs, looked as if we could break above 2440, broke out, failed, the techness and weak spread, got most of us out. Today, we kind of held the 21-day, so we'll see what happens here next. I think that it's not a time to sink your teeth in long. Not sure if the S&P cash is going to be able to hold this spot. I guess we'll know a little bit more as we head into the Fed that starts its meeting tomorrow and then comes out with the news on Wednesday. You now have a box type formation. If we stay in the lower end of it and not regroup, okay, we've seen so many other times, chances are maybe we roll down and the bears get more fuel. Last time we had this big harsh down move. Remember what happened here? You had a red dog reversal, took back the 50-day, then just kept going. This more coincides with the Qs. Okay, the Qs, if you do remember also, had a big shot across the bow here, okay, and then gave you a red dog reversal entry, and then it just continued to the upside after breaking this momentum trend. Here, broke another momentum trend with more relative weakness in the rest of the market. Then for today, okay, we held above the 50-day. You got a small red dog reversal here. So what does that mean to you or to me or to anyone out there in active technical land? Okay, if you sold your Qs when the 8-day broke, maybe today, you bought some when it took back 138.11 with a stop at the low of the day. If you did that, you know what, you're up a decent amount of money. And if you're taking a third overnight, because the good book says take a third, even though we broke this trend, for potentially more, okay? If the bears are going to have any kind of power, okay, you would think that a bounce gets contained near the 21-day. Might even go a little bit higher, okay? But if this turns into a big H sell setup where you have from 144 down, you get some kind of oversold bounce that starts to get rejected. Some of you guys will maybe short verse that. And then if it rolls down and we break this, then we have a summer decline. If what happens here where you have a red dog reversal, next day open up, and then there's no following up selling, you want to be careful. So at this point, you have a small reversal. If you want to play a tactical bounce, I'm actually trading this. I'm actually long this for a tactical bounce, maybe to here. Okay, I know it's dangerous, but if you didn't get caught here, you could buy a little bit in the hole, and potentially maybe we do get some kind of move like that. Or if we open up lower, we could then use today's low as a stop tomorrow. As far as big cap tech, the ones that acted the best today, okay, which went green, I would say is Tesla. Tesla held the 8-day, so this is still best in breed. Ron Barron is going to be on CNBC tomorrow, so maybe people were a little worried about being short there, but held the 8-day, took back 354.80, gave some guys a decent trade here. So far, this looks still really really strong. We'll see what happens here. Does it get above this prior high and negate the strength of that? Also, BABA. By the way, I'm not long Tesla right now. BABA went from red to green and then came off a little bit at the end of the day. It's holding this big gap up. The stock was very good to us. We were long into that. And then you had this little reversal pattern on Friday. I sold it on Friday, and now I'm going to figure out if it could hold and digest above this, let the moving averages catch up to get back involved. I was staring at it at the end of the day. I didn't take it long. I feel like there'll be more than enough of a chance to reposition there. And then NVIDIA. NVIDIA also, it's holding actually the 21-day and also went green. Gave you a little red dog reversal for those of you who like to look for that kind of scalp. If you came in long last week and sold it when it opened up or when it went back below a prior high, that was 150-ish, so maybe you thought, this pivot here at 142, 8 points below, is a good one. So now we'll see, what type of bounce happens. You have a big wide range bar. You could use retracement rules. If it starts to take back more than 50%, it'll negate the power of this. If all of a sudden we open up lower and it stays lower and builds a bear flag, maybe it does, sell off to the downside. But for today, it was a better buy than a sell, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Not every high beta tech stock, went green. Amazon did not, but came off the lows. Definitely seems a little vulnerable. It broke that upper flag at the 8-day. For some reason, I'm long this overnight. I think that maybe, we get some kind of trade back into the moving averages here. If it opens up a little bit lower, I'll be able to hopefully trade around it. Last time we had this engulfing down day, it was matched right away and made new highs. I don't expect that to happen here, but that was one that I chose, even though it didn't bounce as well as some other ones. And then tomorrow, if it happens to get above this, maybe there's a little bit more of a trade into this broken down spot. If the bears want to keep this pressure on for lower prices, they probably don't let the bulls reclaim this area as the moving averages will curl down. Google also looks a little bit like Amazon, where actually this one went green, okay, and took back the prior pivot, which Amazon didn't. So this actually looks a tiny bit better on a short-term basis. You could use that pivot, and you could have used this pivot. So again, today was a better buy than on Friday as a sell. Why was it a sell? Took out that 4-day range to the downside. So if you got stopped out around 996, why not try a little bit once it took back 953? That's 40 points. And now you'll see here too, what type of bounce do we have? Does it try and get back into the moving averages over the next day or so, or not? That's my thought process there. Apple was one of the reasons for the weakness today to start. It got downgraded. Ultimately, I tried being long up here, got stopped out on Friday. This morning I started buying a little bit early and it hurt, but it did come off lows. Not that many times, especially this year, have you been able to buy Apple 10 points or 11 points below highs. So I did take a little bit overnight thinking that somebody tries to upgrade it, etc., even if just for a move back to retest the 50-day. Okay, if it stays below the 50-day for the next few sessions and starts to roll down, chances are it will lead tech lower. But I do think there's a small chance that you could be long versus today's low. If it gets above 146.09, you might even get a bit of a trade to retest the 50-day just for a trade, and then we'll see what happens there. But ultimately, this accelerated trend for now is broken. This upper pennant has been resolved lower, not higher, and now we'll see if this spot is buyable versus the morning low. If it opened up below this tomorrow, okay, I lose a lot of money. If it opens down a little bit, you could be long versus that. If it opens up a little bit, maybe we get a bounce type trade into the 50-day. As far as like the other sectors we were watching to see if money will stay there, the banks. I sold my Citigroup on Friday. It was a nice trade. At this point, it gave you a little red dog reversal here. What's a red dog reversal? Well, you guys know if you were a buyer on this breakout here or a buyer when it took out the resistance, you know what? Today it pushed above 64.74, made a new high, came back below it. That is a sell signal just for the short term. So maybe we do see a little bit of a retracement. I did not sell it today or short it today. I actually sold it into strength on Sunday, not Sunday, Friday, as I got stopped out of some other things. So I was just trying to clean things up. I have a day count rule where past day 4 or 5, I usually like to lighten up anyway. This is when you're buying it, this is when you're adding to it, and then you're trying to sell into the strength. And now we'll see what happens here. If you want to look at one more bank, what did Bank of America do today? A little bit of a doji, ahead of the Fed. I guess we'll see what happens here. Does it hold above this and go sideways for a little while? And then I guess if the market sniffs out maybe more than one rate hike, more versus just June, it could continue to the upside, but we shall see. I would just give this some time, and hopefully if you did buy it in the hole when it reclaimed support, okay, or broke above the 8-day, today was your day probably to loosen up a little bit, just a little bit. The XLE was strong all morning, a little bit of a topping tail into the 50-day, which I think most of you guys were probably not chasing anyway. Question is, does this trend line stay the trend line, or does all of a sudden oil become, or energy names become some kind of value play? And how is that going to happen? It's going to have to really hold above this for a little while and go. Last few times, came up, tried to hold, it failed. Came up, tried to hold, failed. We'll see what happens here. okay, if the actual complexion has changed or it's just a buyable spot into the lower end of the channel, which has proven just a trade, nothing more, but maybe this time is different. And if I had $1 for every time I said maybe this time is different, I probably wouldn't have to trade. But anyway, hopefully today you came in opportunistic and did a little bit better than I did, because I started buying a little too early and didn't, hurt, or hurt a little bit, or hurt, hurt a little bit. But now we'll see what's next. Leave last week behind you, leave this morning behind you, and we'll try and use our tactics on how to stay safe and take advantage of some of the volatility that's in front of us. Have a great night. I'll see you in the morning.